FM 94, The Dark. It is that time again. It's time to get to know a band we play here on The Dark. And on the phone tonight, I am talking with the former lead singer of Queensryche and now the new singer, and I guess you could say the guy that started this band, Operation Mindcrime, that being Geoff Tate. And Geoff, thanks so much for joining me and taking time out of your busy schedule. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really great, JC. Good talking to you.
Hey, we just chatted before here. You're up in Seattle. The weather's pretty decent there right now, and you like talking about weather, don't you?
I do. I'm a weather fan. I travel a lot. I play concerts and tour in 65 different countries. So I have my phone has the Weather Channel on it, and I've got all the cities I go to with the weather up there, so I can keep track of how I'm going to get there, if there's going to be delays because of weather or whatever. And I'm just fascinated with it.
It's a crazy thing, and it's always changing. I guess what's your current take of the weather and all the things that have been happening here over the past 6 months to a year, especially with all the hurricanes that we've had?
Yeah, it's crazy, huh? Well, we're living in a real interesting time now, and maybe people don't realize this, but it's unprecedented that we have the ability to communicate the way we do now. I mean, we are communicating in real time with people all over the world. It's not just in our community or in our city anymore or our town. It's everywhere. So we're noticing things, and we're talking about events that are happening, and we're watching the weather and how those patterns are happening, and we're noticing these details now that we never saw before. Or maybe just a select specialist noticed, over time. But now everybody's privy to it. We're all watching the Weather Channel, and we're all seeing, how the weather in Duluth is different this year than it was last year, and how that affects the weather in San Jose, and it's all connected. So it shouldn't be shocking that we're all seeing this stuff now, but it is to a lot of people, But it's unprecedented, and people, I think, should remember that and not get their undies in a bundle so much as to just watch what happens, detail it, talk about it. Let's discuss it.
Just as we were sitting here talking, my cousin Ben just came up, and he is actually in the weather service, and he is a huge fan of yours. Now I know why he is, because you love weather too.
Yeah, it's one of those nerd things that people say, what's the most embarrassing thing about yourself that you don't want to tell anybody? Well, I'm a weather fan.
Hey, we got that out of the way already, Geoff, so we won't ask that question, okay? Let's talk about this band, Operation Mindcrime, and I really want to get the history behind this. So if you can give us the history of Operation Mindcrime and making this project, and obviously you have an album coming out here. We're currently spinning one of those new songs off that album that'll be coming out here in December. But give us the skinny on Operation Mindcrime.
Well, first off, it's not an actual band. Operation Mindcrime is a group of different musicians all getting together to contribute to these 3 albums that I put together. And I believe, I can't remember exactly how many people have played on the albums, but I believe it's something like 16 to 18 different musicians on these records.
Wow.
And there's 3 records. There's The Key, Resurrection, and the new album's called The New Reality. And it's a trilogy of albums that tell one story. It's like telling a story in 3 acts, and each act is an album. So this group of musicians was put together specifically for this project. And it was great working with everybody. I worked with several different writers contributing to the music, and lots of different musicians, guitar players, bass players, drummers, keyboard players. Everybody that contributed did fantastic work. And we recorded all the basic tracks for all 3 albums at the same time a couple of years ago. And then as I finished the records, the record company put them out once a year. And this is the last album of the trilogy and the last album for Operation Mindcrime, and it's coming out in December.
You mentioned the project in that. Obviously, from your years of being with the band Queensryche in that, I'm assuming, and listening to it, and I've heard some of the stuff, there is a lot of take from that, from the past, Have you added a lot of something new to that as well, or is it more stuff just what you've grown up with all your life?
As far as, are you talking stylistically? Music?
Stylistically, correct? Yes.
Oh, oh, yeah. It's really quite different. A lot of well, kind of a return to my musical roots, which are progressive rock primarily, is my influences. So there's a lot of that kind of sound of things in the song arrangements and the instrument choices and things like that. But it's challenging music. It's definitely musician-oriented music.
Right.
That I mean, it's catchy in the melodic sense, and lyrical sense. But musically, it's pretty challenging stuff that not everybody is going to be able to pick out everything that's going on with it, because it's pretty in depth and complex.
Right. You mentioned
it's not for kids.
No, it's not. No, it's not. You got to. And the thing is, you feel. I mean, over the years, obviously, listening to your music, you can feel what you're singing, and obviously, that is probably the number one thing what a singer wants to have said to them is they feel them. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think very much so, that lyrics and melodies, especially from the vocalist, is what communicates the song much more than anything else, and much more than any other instrument. The vocal is the kind of the pathway into the listener, Mm-hmm. And so if you're if you're interpreting the music and the lyrics in the best way possible, then you're singing it in a way that is going to affect the listener in a good way, and that's kind of what I've always tried to do, and also kind of just done it subconsciously. I sing it the way I feel it, and hopefully that comes across, and people relate to that.
Absolutely. We're talking with Geoff Tate, of course, former lead singer of Queensryche, and also with his project Operation Mindcrime, and that third album is coming out here on December 1st. Let's get back into you as a youngster growing up in that, and you mentioned influences in that. What did influence you, I guess, to eventually turn yourself into a singer?
Well, I started really young. I was 9 years old and really discovered music seriously. The way, you discovered weather. That's the way I discovered music.
Right,
I really got into it, threw myself into it at 9, and I told my parents, look, I really want to learn to play an instrument. And they suggested I take up piano, because that was we had a piano, and it was a really great instrument to start with for a number of different reasons. But so that's what I started on, was piano. And eventually graduated from piano into trumpet, played all through school in band orchestra and in saxophone, and then started singing kind of about, I guess, after my voice changed, and I was about 13, 14. I sang in church choir, and then really started writing my own material at that point early on. When I was in high school, I was writing my own music and working with other musicians that I'd played with in the school orchestra and school band, and we were writing our own material and building our first synthesizer when I was in high school, and then just sort of graduated to playing in local bands and trying to find my way in the music business, really. And then Queensryche kind of came about rather quickly. Actually, I was like 21 when Queensryche got signed.
And the one thing, for me, and, going back to Queensryche, I guess, my favorite song, it might have been one of the first songs that you ever wrote for Queensryche, and that was The Lady Wore Black. Am I correct on that?
That was the first song, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Give me talk about that, I guess. If you, obviously you remember the first time you did that, when you sat down, you were working on that. Well, what was that like? What I guess was, give me the skinny on that, I guess. I, for one, being maybe selfish to the listener, really kind of curious on that.
Well, let's see. got to go way back.
Yeah, way back.
Way back to 1980, 81.
Okay.
Okay. And at that time, I'm living in the country outside of Seattle in a place called Redmond. And it's beautiful, rural area. And the band is Queensryche is not Queensryche yet.
Right.
We're just a bunch of guys that got together and decided to write some songs and record them and see if we could take our demo tape and get a record deal.
Right.
And I was playing in a number of different bands at the time, but I started working with the guys in Queensryche on this particular 4-song EP. And Lady We're Back was the first song that we wrote together. And we had been in the studio, and we were working nighttime at the studio because it was less expensive to work at night. So we had been up all night and working on the music, and we wrote this beautiful piece of music. But I didn't have any words yet. I had some melodic ideas, but I didn't have the words. And I left the studio at, I guess about 8 o'clock in the morning, and it was kind of one of those late summer days where it's kind of foggy at night, and the fog lifts in the morning. Mm-hmm. And so it was kind of sunny, but with fog everywhere. And I'm walking home because at the time I couldn't afford to own a car. So I'm walking home, and I'm walking through this valley. There's a river valley. I'm walking to my house, and I walk past this woman who's sitting in the park, and she's all dressed in black, and boom, it just hit me.
Wow.
The song lyrics came to me, and by the time I had gotten to my house, which was probably a half hour later, I had written the lyrics in my head. So I scribbled them down on a piece of paper and came to the studio the next day, and we cut the song.
That's awesome. That is awesome. That's very cool. Very cool. Very cool. We're talking to Geoff Tate. And, Geoff, I want to know something, too, here. Obviously, you've been around the industry for a long time, and you've seen it change over the years. What is the biggest change and maybe the biggest challenge today for today's artists than when you started back in the early 80s?
Well, when I started, the industry was running strong. It was, super successful, and they had a model that they were using. This is how it works, And over time, especially towards the mid to late 90s, everything changed in the industry. And, the Internet basically changed it, where people were able to download music for free and not pay for it. Mm-hmm. So it radically changed the industry because it took all the money out of the industry. It's like if everybody walked into their local supermarket and loaded up their basket full of food and walked out without paying for it, well, pretty soon there wouldn't be any supermarkets, right? Because they need the money to make it work, right? And so basically downloading and, illegal downloading gutted the music industry and took the money out of it, so everybody pretty much left. For example, when I was with EMI Records in the 80s and the 90s, there were 10,000 plus people working for the label, and now there's 21 people working for the label. What label's left? It's pretty much administrating what's the catalog of what's there, of previous artists' work. So it's just gutted it, right? So nowadays, new bands starting out have a really difficult, I think it's an almost impossible time to try to get themselves noticed and to get, it's a catch-22, for example. You have to play live in order to get an audience.
Right.
But how can you afford to play live if you can't sell tickets?
Right.
So what do? You have to go on YouTube. You have to create sort of some kind of sensation about yourself, and hopefully enough people will like what you're doing, and those likes translate into those people buying tickets to your show if you can possibly get to where their town is.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, it's really difficult. You basically have to have somebody taking care of you. Another band looking out for you and helping you out and giving you a leg up to get on their tour and expose you to their audience, or you have to have some investor that's got super deep pockets that's willing to lay out, multiple thousands of dollars to help you get out on the road and gain an audience.
Right. And that's something we do here on The Dark, is trying to help out these up-and-coming artists. And I guess that's my next question for you, Geoff, is has there been in the last few years, maybe 5 years or so, there's been some bands or something that you've helped out, or at least tried to help out and move them in the right direction?
Well, I'm working with a band currently that I have a real special tie to. It's my daughter's band. My daughter Emily has a fantastic band called Till Death Do Us Part. And they have their first CD is out, and they're working on their second one now. And I had her band tour with me across the United States last year, and she'll probably do another tour with me in Europe in January. And they're just a fantastic band. I'm really, really impressed with their songwriting and their commitment to their art, and I can't recommend them more highly.
Absolutely. What's it like to have a daughter in the industry and then also to be able to tour with her?
It's great. It's absolutely great. Well, I have 5 daughters, and she's my youngest and the only one that wanted to be a musician. So I have special bond with her because of that. And the funny thing is I didn't even know she was going to do it. I didn't know she was making a career out of music until last year.
Oh.
I thought, she told me when she was 9 years old that she wanted to be a singer. Mm-hmm. And I thought, oh, isn't that cute? She wants to be a singer. Like last week, she wanted to be a veterinarian. And before that, she wanted to be a fireman,
Right.
So I didn't think anything of it. But then about a year ago, I'm sitting in my living room reading a book, and she comes in and she goes, hey, you want to hear my new CD? I said, CD? What? She goes, yeah, my band. I made a CD. You're in a band? Yeah, I wrote an album, and here it is. I was completely shocked. And I put it on, and I was massively impressed. I mean, really, really great songwriting, interesting presentation, and it's wonderful to hear your kid, hearing their artwork,
right.
Hearing what they do, and listening to their words they're singing about and the pictures they're painting. It's a weird, sobering experience for a parent, I have to say, to do that, and especially as a musician, relating to her as a musician is a whole different weird thing as well.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed her album, and I enjoyed having them on tour. She has a wonderful band. She's the only American, and her whole band is from Scotland.
Wow. Very cool. So I got to ask, are you the overprotective dad then when on tour?
Well, she doesn't really need protecting.
Okay.
But, I look out for her and try to make sure that, she has what she needs. And she just wrote me that she's in Glasgow now, and she said that she needs a new pair of in-ear monitors because hers broke. So she's asking me for money. It never ends.
I tell you what, we could talk forever, Geoff, but I know you got to get going here. Once again, Operation Mindcrime, your third song or your third album of the trilogy is coming out on December 1st. How can people get more information about that?
Well, they can go onto the internet and find me at geofftate.com. Geoff Tate Facebook, OperationMindCrime.com, Operation Mindcrime Facebook. Yeah, it's all there.
Right. And, Geoff,
all the info.
Future projects, do you have something in the works, something you're working out on, I guess, since this is your third and final album?
Well, actually, I do. I have a new song that I'm going to be putting out next month for Christmas. It's a song I wrote, and I'm giving the song away to a wonderful charity called Mercy Watch, which is a charity I'm very close to that is a group of physicians and healthcare workers, social workers, healthcare professionals who donate their time and energy and their profession to helping the homeless and the mentally ill. And I'm doing a benefit concert on November 11th, which is Saturday, in Seattle, near Seattle, actually, Everett, for Mercy Watch as well. But I'm just getting ready to put out the song, so after we hang up and finish talking, I'm going back in the studio to finish it because I'm right at the end of it now.
Right. And that's a great cause. And, unfortunately, with the latest things that we've had in your industry of people and the mental illness and, of course, the passing of Chester Bennington, Chris Cornell, and the likes of others, that is something that I think is definitely forgotten by a lot of people, but it is there every single day, isn't it, Geoff?
It is. And, it's as we live in this age of scrutiny now, the microscope is turned to mental health and how it affects our society. And the discussion is really open and actually very interesting to be part of and look at and, get the information as to what people are finding out about it now and what's causing these things. And Mercy Watch is right there in the forefront of it. And I highly recommend people to, if they're interested in donating to charities, to really give Mercy Watch a shot or a look at, because it's a real upstanding charity, and they do fantastic work, and they're really making a difference.
Geoff, thanks so much for your time. I really, truly appreciate this interview.
Oh, my pleasure. Have happy holidays, and hope the weather gets great.
Yeah, well, it'll be snowing before long, so that's what'll happen. Hey, Geoff Tate, once again, so our interview. The latest song is called "Wake Me Up" from his project Operation Mindcrime. You're hearing it right now. It's on The Dark. It's on FM 94.